So since our management roadshow around about a year ago, and every quarter since, we've been asked by all of you as to why universities need groups like us, the value we bring, and how vital online and businesses like our are to university's growth agenda. So we are incredibly fortunate and very appreciative today to be joined by Professor Nick Wailes. Allow me just to briefly introduce Nick and his background. So Nick is Senior Deputy Dean and Director of the Australian Graduate School of Management at the UNSW Business School over in, I don't know, sunny Randwick today. For once. Prior to taking on this role, Nick was Associate Dean at UNSW Business School and was previously the Director of the MBA programs at the University of Sydney. So good to see you can transfer, Nick. Nick designed and developed the MBA-X, which is UNSW's specialized online MBA program, which is currently ranked number 4 in the world in the most recent global rankings of online MBAs with QS. His research focuses on the impact of technology on organizations, and he's a regular commentator on emerging digital business models. That's what it says on his bio. We are very, very fortunate to be joined by him today. And Nick, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
So you've agreed to answer a select section of questions that we get from our investment community. And to be transparent, I will do my best to not lead the witness. Nick, would you mind just starting by providing us an overview of your role, your remit, and your responsibilities at UNSW?
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here. It's normally me asking questions of people, so it's funny to be the other way around. So I've really got 2 roles. So I'm the director of AGSM. So AGSM is Australia's oldest and largest graduate school of business, and we have we're the part of the business school that services the MBA and the executive education market. So we have a full-time MBA, an executive MBA, and MBA-X, as you mentioned. Plus we run short courses we do customized leadership development programs for large companies, and we also have open enrollment short courses. So I run that business unit and sort of drive the strategy for it. My other role is as Deputy Dean of the Business School. So the Business School at UNSW, we're Australia's #1 ranked business school. We have about 18,000 students across all the way from undergraduate through to postgraduate research. But just to give you a bit of a sense, about 40% of our students are undergraduate, and the rest are postgraduate, and the predominant number of those would be international students, and they're largely from China. So it's a pretty substantial enterprise. I've got a particular focus on external engagement and alumni relations because we just crossed over 100,000 alumni last year, so quite substantial. Maybe just to say something about the students that we deal with. The ones that I deal with mainly at AGSM, they're busy working professionals. So they're mid-30s, they've got busy jobs, they've normally got complicated family lives and lots of other things, and they're
on
studying.
The trading floor in here, are they?
Yeah, plenty of
sitting right next to you.
Plenty of our current students are in our alumni here, and they're looking to do one of 2 things. They're looking to get ahead in their current career, so they want to accelerate their career, or they're looking to change industries or sectors, and they use us to help them do that. So.
We're slowly sort of evolving and working our way out of a pandemic, which has had a devastating impact across the world. Could you sort of walk us through the impacts to the university sector of that, and specifically within a business school too?
Sure. So maybe there's a shock. So I can talk about shock, but there's also a series of things coming out of COVID. So the shock, I think most people know in Australia, very heavy reliance on international students in Australian universities, and a big shock, the borders closing, big shock as a consequence. So for most universities, there was a downturn of revenue, I think in the order of 15 to 20%, and cost cutting that was required, and some of those type of things. Actually, we fared pretty well. So we'd anticipated a much bigger drop off because we're so reliant on international students from China, but actually they kept on coming and they enrolled online. And we're back now at enrollment levels that are higher than 2019, so above the trend 2019. even though heaps of our students can't get here. So not as big as we'd anticipated, but we took some costs out of the business. I think the bigger impact is that it really just supercharged and drove changes that were taking place anyway. So the most obvious one is that people want to choose when and where they study. And online is no longer a second cousin. Online is a viable option, and for many people, online is a preferable option. And COVID just absolutely accelerated it. We'd seen that happening before, but it's completely dominant now. So if you look at the contemporary data of the postgraduate enrolments in Australian universities, 74% of them are online, 100% online, and that is not going away. And I think they're going to eat up the other 25% or most of it. So that's happening. The second big change that's happening is a demand for change in the educational experience. So people don't want to sit in a big lecture theatre and get content that they could get another way. They want engaging, active learning that's career related and applied to what they do. So what that really translates to is where you can have content, you use digital for that and transmit that. And when you have time together with students, whether online or face-to-face, you make sure it's a valuable exchange where they're applying what they've learned to a specific instance and they're getting the benefit of the cohort they're in. And technology is allowing us to scale that experience in a way that we haven't been able to. I think the third big shift that's happening is people are wanting shorter qualifications. So people are thinking about how do I get into my next career quicker, so the growth of grad certs and grad dips versus masters is about people's rush to get into new opportunities and those type of things. So all of those trends were happening before, but they've accelerated, and I think they're here to stay now.
You've spoken a lot about growth and market size and preference there. Can you talk to us a little bit how a university and beyond just you within a university thinks about quality within that market as well? Because especially for a university with this ranking, it can't be ignored.
Yeah. So quality is our number one attribute. So that we will be around in a couple of 100 years because we focused on quality all the way through. So that's quality of who we admit. It's the quality of who we employ, and that's quality of the experience that we have. So it's not a trade-off between, but education is a very unusual market because there's not a trade-off between quality and price. The two actually go together. So, the world's most prestigious universities are also the most expensive universities, and they're also the ones that get the most enrollments and the most applications. So I think, we just focus on quality. I think the change that needs to take place is that quality used to be just about rankings or research or some of those sort of things. We have to have quality all the way through the student experience and the sort of customer experience as well. And that's starting to exercise minds in universities.
So several years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you primary lead along with another group within the university decided you needed a partner to go online at scale. Before we get into the partner and the impact, why did you decide that?
So let me talk about personally, and then I can talk about the institution. So I took a group of students to Stanford in end of 2013 and had this oh shit moment because I met with Andrew Ng from Coursera and they'd just set up, and then we spent some time with the VC, who was sort of in the ed tech space, and you could sort of see this slow moving train wreck coming along. University sector has got, it's incredibly large, great growth opportunities, but business models look like 19th century business models. And they're enjoying margins that only luxury businesses really enjoy. And there was virtually but everyone was frogs in boiling water, right? They had no idea that this change was coming and all these sort of things. So I personally came back from that trip. I was at another university and I went to UNSW because I thought I need to go somewhere where I think we can respond to that. So that was my sort of beginning of my journey into online education. And I think I made the right choice at the right time. Although I still worry that we haven't quite got our head around the disruption that's coming. From a university point of view, there was a broad acknowledgement of a couple of things. So firstly, we needed a new revenue stream. So we needed to grow revenue because universities are incredibly money hungry. They want money to fund research, and we're always looking for additional revenue streams to fund that research because research is not funded by any other way. Secondly, there was a really, it was sort of at a senior executive level, there was an understanding that we had capability gap for the new educational model that was coming. So we had pockets of expertise in some of these areas, but we didn't have a broad understanding of the type of capabilities we need. And these are broad capabilities. It's not just how do you design a good online program. It's also how do you create student services that can deal with a remote population that are wanting service 24/7. How do you have the marketing sophistication that you can target the type of customers that you want in the future, all the way through to how do you stand up and create the sort of services that you need to support an online cohort when you've been predominantly working with an on-campus view. One, revenue; two, capability; and third was capital. So universities, we generate a lot of money, so we're multi-billion-dollar enterprises, but we've got a lot of things that have got claims on that money. So legacy IT systems, very expensive professors, hugely expensive telescopes. There's no end to the number of things that we could spend $1 on. We could spend it in lots of different ways. And being able to pull money out of the operating model and say we're going to invest in future capability in our online education was just a really hard ask in that environment. So we understood that an OPM provided not just capability and not just access to a revenue stream, but we're prepared to put capital into what we do.
That was my next question. What were you looking for then? And so you understand that we can't do this ourselves, a diversified revenue stream's too hard, a capability uplift. What did the partner have to bring?
So I think, good question. I think it's a bundle of skills. So I was there where we wrote the RFP for online provision of online services. You'll remember that.
A great time.
It was a painful
Great time,
process.
yeah.
We spent time with all of the major players in the OPM market. And I think for me, the combination was, firstly, it was what's the stuff that university's not good at or hasn't invested in. So that is customer acquisition. And the sort of sophisticated, program level digital marketing capability that will drive new students into your programs. So
can I ask you just about that? Because the university has tens of thousands of students. When you say customer acquisition, what's different that the university couldn't have done?
So we mainly recruit two main channels at the moment. So we recruit undergraduates straight from school, and there is a national clearinghouse that does that for us. So all we have to do is say UNSW is better than everyone else, and then people go through our national clearing system and they preference us. So we've got zero cost of acquisition there. So, but also that those students have got they've got a capped price ticket with them. Mm-hmm. So, and we're capped in the market. So there's only so many that we can recruit. So we don't have any trouble with that. We're top ranked university. The other channel we use is international agents. So most of our international enrollments come through agencies. And they're clipping the ticket on the way through, and we're reasonably effective at dealing with the agents. So we work with them, we help them understand what makes us better than Melbourne University or those sort of things so that they can sell through their channels. We're very, very unsophisticated into direct to consumer type marketing. So, the way that somebody walking on the street here, how do we get to them and how do we advertise to them? How do we engage them in further study? We're very, very unsophisticated in that. And some universities are better than others, but on the most part, they've really specialised in that undergraduate funnel and the postgrad and the agent funnel, and they don't really have the sophisticated capability for that more B2C transaction.
So we fast forward a few years and we have launched an array of programs alongside you in the business school, thousands of students and enrollments. How do you and the university evaluate the value that we bring?
So a couple of different ways. So there is a number sitting on my on my budget, which is how much money we're earning from online programs. So, right. And the thing about that is it's a new revenue line that didn't used to be there, and it's substantial and it's growing. So I just looked at the HEMS data the other day, and we now have 35% of the domestic market share for domestic postgraduate enrollments, and that's all Keypath driven growth. So, And then the other number I look at is what does it cost me to deliver those programs, and the margin's strong. So we've got a strong margin because the way the courses are designed, and this might be going a bit too intricate, you use your expensive faculty resources to design the programs, but the way the programs run, it's less expensive to deliver them because you're using skilled facilitators, but they don't necessarily need to be subject matter experts.
So your unit economic model is better.
It is much better. Yeah, it's much better. And,
I did not know that was coming.
but it's much better, and it's also scalable. So I've only got one professor of finance that can do international finance, but if I have enough demand and through Keypath programs, I can put on 10 courses and have 10 facilitators to stand up. So that really makes a difference. So there's a demonstrable financial benefit, and the universities see that. Universities got funny internal budgeting systems, so sometimes they don't necessarily understand where they're getting all their money from, but that's all right. The other benefit, I think, is a real cultural change, and that we know. So twice now, UNSW's had to go from being an on-campus university to a fully online university almost at the drop of a hat. So in the first lockdown, we had 2 days to get everybody out and switch over. So we were the only GO8 in Australia that didn't pause our classes for 2 weeks. So we actually went to online within 3 days. And we did that because, and we put that down to what we'd learned about good online delivery through our experience with Keypath and some of our other initiatives. So we were actually able to do it. So it wasn't perfect, but we were streets ahead of everybody else. And I think it's really fundamentally shifted the capabilities and the skill sets internally, which I think sets us up really well for the future.
So a couple more questions from me, and if you don't mind, Nick, I'll open it to the floor, and folks can ask some questions if they like. I guess to that point, how ingrained are we then within the university, within your faculty? If we're a line item for you, is this difficult to we're more than a service provider, I guess, is where I'm going.
So I think the question you're asking is, are you substitutable? And I would say no, and I would say no for a couple of reasons. So firstly, sure, you take that spiral, you could unbundle it and you could put all of those different elements in different places, but it's not just the different elements, it's how they come together and the focus of them. And I think that, what OPMs bring is a focus on capturing a market opportunity and getting the most out of that opportunity. So I don't think that that's substitutable. I think secondly, my view is that universities are getting out of the habit of trying to do everything themselves, and they're thinking about how do they partner. So I sort of think of you guys as becoming infrastructure in the same way that we have a cloud provider rather than on-premise. So it's a necessary but not sufficient infrastructure that we're going to need to continue to service this market. So every large university is going to have a partner in this area or a capability in this area because so much of their business is going to be online. The question is, are they going to do that with a partner that's actually doing it all the time and knows what they're doing and you get the benefit of best practice? Or are they going to try and invest internally and repeat the mistakes themselves? And I think, there's a much more compelling buy than make logic here. So I think that they're ingrained. And I think the third thing, which you referred to a little bit more, is that we're actually going to become more and more dependent on the market insights and the data that you generate and the sort of consulting and advice type layer. So typically a university will develop a program because there's somebody who thinks it's a good idea. And they've got a passion for it. And there's this real product push model. So you end up with these very quirky things that come to committees to be. So we don't have the capability, and we increasingly need it, is to understand what the market pull is. Mm-hmm. So where's the emerging area? Where is it worth us investing our time? And we're going to come more and more reliant on that. And the market's changing more quickly. So it used to be you could set up a generic program that would last for 20 years and you didn't really have to worry about it. But, there are whole new professions that exist now that didn't exist 5 years ago. And, we really need to be able to respond rapidly to those changes in the market. So I think you'll become more ingrained in universities, not less. So.
I think it's fair to say we'd love to keep talking for a lot longer. I've got 10 minutes left, so maybe...
I'm going to open it up to the floor.
2 quick questions. Sure. I think everyone will ask this question. How do you think about renewal? So you've entered into one contract that has an expiry, I assume, and then you think, are the margins at Keypath too high, and can you boost your revenue line, your budget through tough negotiation?
So actually, so I don't really think about the revenue share component. So because the way I think about it is the revenue share that we're getting is additional revenue that we wouldn't otherwise get, and I think we get good value out of that. So maybe a little bit of argy-bargy around the revenue share, but I think that's fine. I suppose the question will be, what are the services that are in and out? So we selected Keypath. One of the primary reasons was their depth of expertise in educational development. So, all the other OPMs outsource that, or it's a periphery offer. Like at the core of what Keypath does is that educational development. But I think probably 10 years on, we probably would have learnt some of the lessons there. So we might keep some more of the educational development process ourselves. But that's just a sort of maturity phase. So that might change. And then I think that we'll probably also, I think for me, renewal and the interesting thing is going to be, at the moment, we're all focusing on the postgraduate degree world. So that's where the growth is. There's liquidity there, all those sort of things. But that's going to mature. The big opportunity coming is micro credentials and short courses. And so I think renegotiation is going to be about how do we partner to get into that market and to grow, because that's a market that's many more times bigger than the one that we're currently working in. And so I think renewal won't just be about the existing business. It'll be about what's the opportunity to grow and how do we want to play that out over the next few years.
And just second question for me, where do you think your peers sit relative to your views? So you've got quite strong views in the sector, you're obviously very close to it, but do you think you're leading where others, will they follow, or will they try and make mistakes and do their own?
So I get lots of people ring me that are in similar roles to me that wanting to talk about, what's negotiating with OPMs and stuff like that. So I think I get the phone calls from most people who are sitting trying to make a decision about doing it internally or not. And I think once you talk them through it, they just go, "Oh my God, there's sort of no contest." So I think there's a compelling logic in the sector that, just generally speaking, everybody understands that they need to grow their exposure to the domestic postgraduate market because of so you've got capped undergraduate enrolments, you've got volatility in international enrolment, so everyone's going to go after that sector. That is almost exclusively an online market, and it's very hard to go into online without a partner. So I think if they're not there yet, they're going to get there. They might waste a bit of money or spend a bit of time, but So yes, I am a little bit ahead, but I think everyone will inevitably get there. And like I say, I sort of see this as the same as like its core infrastructure. It's like a student information system, or it's those sort of things. Everyone will have to have this capability, and it's very hard to think about doing that internally. It makes sense to have a partner that does it for you.
And I think on that note, that's a really nice way to finish the Q&A. So thank you so much for